They say blood is thicker than water. I learned the hard way that blood can also stain deeper than any sin. I walked out of Riverbend Correctional Facility on a Tuesday morning in October, 10 years older and a lifetime harder than the kid who'd walked in. The guard who processed my release didn't look at me. None of them ever did on discharge day. Maybe they thought looking would make them complicit in whatever came next. What came next was a Greyhound bus ride back to Millbrook, the small town I'd tried so hard to forget. My name is David Chen. I was 23 when I went in. I'm 33 now, and the face that stared back at me from the bus window belonged to a stranger. Harder angles, gray threading through my black hair at the temples. Eyes that had seen too much and trusted too little. 10 years ago, I made a choice. The kind of choice that divides your life into before and after. I took the fall for my brother Marcus. The bus rolled past autumn fields turning gold and red, past the same exit signs I'd memorized as a kid. Millbrook, population 8,000, home of the annual Harvest Festival, where everyone knew everyone, and secrets were currency more valuable than cash. Marcus was 3 years older than me, and for most of my childhood, he'd been my hero. When Dad died of a heart attack when I was 12, Marcus stepped up. He worked 2 jobs while finishing high school so Mom could keep the family restaurant Chin's Garden, the only Chinese restaurant in a town that thought ethnic food was Taco Bell. He taught me how to throw a punch, how to ask out Jennifer Walsh, who would later become my fiancée, how to make Dad's special Kung Pao chicken that kept customers coming back for 30 years. But Marcus had a weakness. He liked shortcuts, liked the easy way when the right way seemed too hard. I didn't know about the embezzling until it was too late. Marcus had been managing Chun's Garden for 3 years when the discrepancies started showing up. Missing deposits, altered receipts. He was skimming money to cover gambling debts I didn't even know existed, until the night he showed up at my apartment. Face pale as rice paper, hands shaking. David, I fucked up. I fucked up so bad, the restaurant was being audited. The evidence pointed straight to him. Mom would lose everything the restaurant Dad built from nothing. The house, her entire life. There's a way out, Marcus had said, his voice barely a whisper. You just started as assistant manager. You had access to the accounts too. If you say you did it, I can fix this. I swear to God, David, I'll fix everything. I just need time. And here's the thing about being the younger brother. You spend your whole life trying to measure up, trying to be worthy of the pedestal you built for someone who probably never deserved to be on it. So I said yes. I confessed to embezzling $75,000 from Chun's Garden. I signed the papers. I stood before the judge and took my sentence. 10 years. Marcus promised me 3 things the night before my sentencing. He'd take care of Mom, he'd take care of Jenny, my fiancée, and when I got out, everything would be waiting for me. The restaurant, my life, all of it. I believed him. I had to believe him, or the cage I was walking into would have been unbearable. Bus pulled into Millbrook at 2:47 p.m. I knew because I'd been counting down every minute of the last 3,652 days. The town looked smaller than I remembered. Or maybe I'd just gotten used to thinking in terms of cell blocks and yard space. The old movie theater was now a vape shop. The diner where Ginny and I had our first date was a Dollar General. But Chen's Garden still stood on Main Street, red lanterns swaying in the autumn breeze. I stood across the street for a long time, just watching. Through the windows, I could see the lunch crowd starting to thin out. The same red vinyl booths, the same golden lucky cat waving by the register. My inheritance, my birthright. Then Marcus walked out from the kitchen. He looked good, better than good. He'd filled out, traded his scraggly goatee for a neat beard, expensive watch catching the light. He laughed at something a customer said. That easy charisma that had always made people love him. That's when I saw her. Jenny came out behind him, carrying a tray of dirty dishes. Her dark hair was shorter now, cut into a professional bob. She'd always talked about growing it long, down to her waist. I used to wind it around my fingers while we lay in bed, making plans for a future that never came. She smiled at Marcus. He said something that made her laugh. Then he pulled her close and kissed her. Not a quick peck, a real kiss. An ownership kiss. My hands clenched until my nails cut into my palms. That's when I saw the kid, a girl, maybe 8 or 9 years old, came running out from the back. She had Jenny's eyes and Marcus's smile, and my whole world tilted on its axis. The math was simple and devastating. Jenny had been 2 months pregnant when I went in. She'd cried when she told me, terrified and happy all at once. We were going to name the baby Emma if it was a girl, after my grandmother. This girl, this child, laughing and hugging Marcus. Like he was her father, she was mine, or she was supposed to be. I turned and walked away before they could see me. My legs moved on autopilot, carrying me through streets I'd walked 1,000 times before. Past the high school, where Marcus and I had played basketball, past the park where Dad used to take us fishing. I ended up at the cemetery. Dad's grave was, well, fresh flowers, chrysanthemums. His favorite, someone had been taking care of it. Probably Mom. Hey Dad, I said to the headstone, I'm back. I kept my promise. I protected them. The wind rustled through the trees. No answer came. None ever did. Marcus promised me to. You remember the promises we make in this family. Dad used to say that Chen men kept their word or died trying. Honor above all. Family above everything. I sat on the grass next to his grave until the sun started to set. My cheap burner the prison gave me had one contact programmed in. My parole officer. I'd call him tomorrow. Check in like I was supposed to. Start rebuilding my life like a good reformed citizen. But first, I needed to understand what had happened to my life while I was gone. I found a room at the Millbrook Motor Lodge. The kind of place they rented by the hour and didn't ask questions if you paid cash. The wallpaper was peeling, and something was making a rhythmic banging sound in the room next door. But it had 4 walls and a door that locked. More than I'd had for 10 years. I lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling. Doing the math over and over, Jenny had been pregnant when I went in. That child had to be mine. She'd be 9 years old now, almost 10, but Marcus was raising her. Marcus and Jenny were together. The brother who'd promised to wait for me had taken my fiancée and my daughter and stepped into the life that should have been mine. I should have felt rage, pure white-hot fury. Instead, I felt cold. So cold it seemed to radiate from my bones. Got cold was better. Cold could think, cold could plan. The next morning, I walked into Chin's garden at 11 a.m., right before the lunch rush. Mom was at the register, older now, her hair completely gray. She wore the same jade pendant Dad had given her 40 years ago. When she looked up and saw me, her face went through a cascade of emotions: shock, joy, fear, something else I couldn't quite read. David, she came around the counter and pulled me into a hug that smelled like jasmine tea and cooking oil. You should have called. We would have picked you up. I wanted to surprise you. You certainly did that. She pulled back, studying my face with a mother's concern. You look so different. 10 years will do that. Marcus emerged from the kitchen, and our eyes met for the first time in a decade. He froze, just for a second, but I caught at that flicker of guilt before he smoothed it over with a smile. David, my God, little brother. He crossed the restaurant in long strides and pulled me into a hug. I let him, my arms staying loose at my sides. When did you get out? Why didn't you tell us? Yesterday. Wanted to surprise everyone? Mission accomplished. He held me at arm's length, and I wondered if he could see the calculation in my eyes. You look good, man. Really good. Prison must have had a decent gym. Something like that. Jenny appeared in the kitchen doorway, and the smile fell from her face. She'd known I was getting out. I'd sent her the release date months ago, but seeing me standing there seemed to hit her like a physical blow. David, just my name. Nothing else. Hey, Jenny. An awkward silence stretched between us, thick as the humidity before a thunderstorm. Mom jumped in. Bless her, always the peacemaker. You must be hungry. Sit. I'll make you something special. Your favorite kung pao chicken. I finished. With extra peanuts and those little dried peppers that make your mouth burn. Mom's smile wavered. You remember? I remember everything. Mom, I sat in my old favorite booth, the one by the window where I could watch Main Street. Marcus slid in across from me, and Jenny hovered nearby. Uncertain. Where's Emma? I asked. The question landed like a grenade. Jenny's face went white. Marcus's jaw tightened. Mom, still standing by the kitchen door, looked away. She's at school, Jenny said finally. 4th grade. She gets out at 3. 4th grade. My daughter was in 4th grade, and I'd missed every birthday, every first day of school, every loose tooth and scraped knee. I'd like to meet her, I said. David, Marcus started, his voice careful. Maybe we should talk first, privately. There are things you need to understand. I understand plenty. I kept my voice level, conversational. I understand, I've been gone for 10 years. I understand things change. I understand that you're with Jenny now, and you've been raising my daughter. It's not that simple, Jenny said, and there were tears in her eyes now. Real tears, not the manipulative kind. David, please, we need to explain later. I looked at Marcus. I'm here now. I'd like to work in the restaurant again. Get my life back on track. That's what parole officers like to hear, right? Stable employment, family support. Marcus exchanged a glance with Jenny. Something passed between them. Some unspoken communication that came from years of intimacy that made me want to put my fist through the table. Of course, Marcus said. Of course, you can work here. This is your family's restaurant too. We'll figure something out. Mom brought out my kung pao chicken, and I ate it while they watched. It tasted exactly like I remembered, like home, like childhood, like everything I'd lost, like ashes in my mouth. After lunch, Marcus showed me around the restaurant. Not much had changed in the front, but the kitchen had been updated. New equipment, better ventilation, a second walk station. Business has been good, Marcus explained. Really good, actually. We expanded the menu, started doing catering for corporate events. Last year we pulled in almost half a million. The restaurant that had struggled to clear $50,000 a year when I went in was now thriving. That's impressive, I said. How'd you turn it around? Hard work, smart investments. Jenny's got a head for marketing. She started a social media presence, got us featured in some regional food blogs. He paused. And your sacrifice gave us the breathing room we needed. Without that audit hanging over us, without the debt, we could actually grow. My sacrifice. He made it sound noble instead of what it really was, me taking the bullet he'd fired. Glad I could help. We ended up in the office, the small room off the kitchen where Dad used to do the books. Marcus sat behind the desk, Dad's desk. My desk hand pulled out a folder. Listen, David, I know this is weird. I know it's complicated, but I want you to know that I never forgot what you did for me. For us, he slid the folder across the desk. I've been setting aside money for you. Every month for 10 years. It's not much, but it's something. A start. I opened the folder. Bank statements showing monthly deposits into an account in my name. The balance showed $127,000. It was a lot of money. More than I'd expected. It was also nowhere near enough for 10 years of my life. Thank you, I said, because that's what he expected. That's generous. It's not generous. It's what you're owed. Marcus leaned back in the chair. Look, I know we need to talk about Jenny, about Emma, about everything, but maybe give it a few days. Let everyone adjust. This is a shock for all of us. Sure, we've got time. I closed the folder. I'm not going anywhere. That afternoon, I met with my parole officer, a tired-looking woman named Gloria Martinez who'd probably heard every sob story and excuse in the book. You've got family support, stable housing lined up, she asked, barely looking up from her paperwork. My mother and my brothers offered me work at the family restaurant. Good. Keep your nose clean. Show up for your check-ins. Stay away from known criminals and don't leave the county without permission. Think you can manage that? I spent 10 years in a cage. I can manage anything. She looked up then, actually seeing me for the first time. Most guys say that. Most guys are back in 6 months. Don't be most guys. David. Yes, ma'am. I spent the rest of the afternoon walking around Millbrook, relearning the geography of my hometown. Some things had changed. New stores, old ones gone. But the bones of the place were the same. The river that cut through downtown. The bridge where teenagers went to drink and make bad decisions. The library where Jenny and I used to study together. At 3:15 p.m., I found myself standing across the street from Millbrook Elementary School. Kids poured out of the building in a chaos of backpacks and energy. I scanned the crowd, looking for a face I'd only seen once, through a restaurant window. Then I saw her. Emma walked out with a group of other girls. Laughing at something one of them said. She had Jenny's delicate features and dark hair, but something about the set of her jaw, the way she moved, that was all Chen. That was Dad. That was me, my daughter. A car pulled up, a newer Honda SUV, and Marcus got out. Emma ran to him, throwing her arms around his waist. Dad, guess what? I got an A on my science project. Dad. She called him Dad. Something in my chest cracked. Marcus noticed me then, standing across the street. Our eyes met over Emma's head. He said something to her, and she got in the car. Then he crossed the street, toward me. David. Marcus, you can't do this. You can't just show up at her school. I wasn't going to approach her. I just wanted to see her. She doesn't know you. She doesn't know anything about you. Marcus ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. Jenny told her that her biological father was away, working overseas. She's 9 years old. David. She's happy. She's adjusted. She's my daughter. She's a little girl who knows me as her father, the only father she's ever had. Marcus lowered his voice. I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm trying to protect her. You just got out of prison. You can't just waltz back into her life and expect what? To know my own child, to not traumatize her. Marcus took a breath, clearly trying to calm himself. Look, I get it, I do, but this needs to be handled carefully. With time, Jenny's been planning to tell her the truth, but we wanted to wait until she was older, until she could understand. I understand that her real father went to prison for a crime he didn't commit. Yeah, that's going to be a fun conversation. Marcus flinched. David, I'll give you time, but not much. I turned to walk away, then stopped. And Marcus, you're welcome for the life I gave you. That night, I lay in my motel room and stared at the ceiling, counting water stains instead of bars. Prison teaches you patience. It teaches you to think long-term, to plan moves like chess pieces. I'd had 10 years to think about this moment, to imagine what I'd do when I got out. In those fantasies, I'd been angry, violent, even. I'd pictured confronting Marcus, maybe putting him in the hospital, taking back everything he'd stolen. But now that I was here, I realized that wasn't what I wanted. I wanted him to feel what I'd felt. The helplessness, the betrayal, the slow, grinding loss of everything that mattered. I wanted him to understand what he'd taken from me, and I wanted it to hurt. My phone buzzed a text from an unknown number. It's Jenny. Can we meet tomorrow, noon, at River Park? Please. I stared at the message for a long time before replying. Okay. River Park was where Jenny and I had our first kiss, 16 years old and stupid with young love, where I'd proposed to her 5 years later, on one knee by the willow tree. My grandmother's ring in a box. My hands shook so hard I nearly dropped it. She was already there when I arrived, sitting on our old bench. She'd aged well, some lines around her eyes, but still beautiful. Still the girl who'd made my heart race in high school biology. Thanks for coming, she said, as I sat down, carefully leaving space between us. You asked. I know this is, God, I don't even know where to start. How about the beginning? When did you and Marcus get together? She closed her eyes. David, please understand, just tell me. 6 months after you went in, I was pregnant, scared, alone. You were gone, and I didn't know if you were even getting my letters. The prison kept returning them because you refused to see me, refused to talk to me. I thought it would be easier. For both of us, well, it wasn't. It was hell. Her voice cracked. I was showing, David. People were talking. My parents wanted me to give the baby up for adoption. And Marcus was there. He helped me. He came to doctor's appointments. He held my hand in the delivery room when Emma was born. How noble of him. Don't do that. She turned to face me fully. You made a choice to push me away. You made a choice to plead guilty instead of fighting. You made a choice to protect Marcus, and that choice had consequences. So you just fell into bed with my brother. It wasn't like that. It took time, and guilt. So much guilt I could barely breathe. Tears were streaming down her face now. I loved you, David. I loved you so much. But you were gone, and I had a baby to raise. And Marcus was the only one who understood. The only one who knew the truth about what you'd done and why. The truth. That word again, like it explained everything. When did you marry him? 3 years ago. Emma asked why all her friends had married parents and we didn't. We did it for her. For her, right? I stood up, needing to move before I said something I'd regret. Did you ever tell her about me? Of course. In kid-appropriate ways. We said you had to go away for work. That you loved her, but couldn't be here. Marcus has been a good father to her. David, whatever else you think about this situation, he loves that little girl like she's his own blood. She is my blood, and she'll know that, when she's ready, when she can process it without it destroying her sense of security, you can't just show up and blow up her life because you're angry. I'm not angry. The words came out cold, flat. I'm just done being the guy who sacrifices everything while everyone else builds lives on top of my sacrifice. Jenny stood too, reaching for my arm. I pulled away. David, please, I know you're hurt. I know you have every right to be, but Emma is innocent in all of this. Whatever you're planning, whatever revenge you think you deserve, don't use her to get it. I'm not planning anything. Jenny, I just want what's mine. I walked away before she could respond, before I could see the fear in her eyes and feel something like guilt, because guilt was what had put me in prison in the first place. The next 2 weeks, I fell into a routine. I worked at Chen's garden, mostly prep work and dishwashing at first. Marcus didn't trust me with anything customer-facing yet, or maybe he just didn't want me around when Emma came by after school. She came in every day at 3:30. Did her homework in the back booth while snacking on pot stickers. I watched her from the kitchen, memorizing the way she chewed on her pencil when she was thinking, the way she kicked her feet when she was happy. Marcus made sure we were never alone together. Mom was different. You should talk to her. Mom said one afternoon while we prepped vegetables. Emma, she asks about you. She doesn't know who I am. She knows you're her Uncle David who just came home. She's curious. Mom's knife moved and practiced strokes, mincing ginger. She has your father's stubbornness, you know, and your eyes. Marcus is her father now. Marcus is the man who raised her. You're the man who gave her life. Mom set down her knife. David, I know you're angry with your brother, with Jenny, maybe with me too, for not stopping any of this. Did you know, when I took the fall, did you know it was Marcus who stole the money? She was quiet for a long moment. I suspected. I'm not blind, and I'm not stupid, but you'd already signed the papers. The deal was done, and Marcus swore he would make it right. Did he? Make it right. He saved the restaurant. He took care of me. He gave Emma a stable home. He's not a bad man, David. He's just weak, like your father was sometimes weak. That comparison stung. Dad had been my hero, second only to Marcus. To hear Mom compare them, to acknowledge that Dad had flaws, Dad never stole from his own family. No, but he gambled sometimes. Drank too much when business was bad. Made promises he couldn't keep. She touched my face gently. We all fail, David. The question is whether we deserve forgiveness. That's not for me to decide, isn't it? You're the one who was hurt most. I didn't have an answer for that evening. After the restaurant closed, I stayed late to practice making Dad's old recipes. The muscle memory was still there, even after 10 years. The precise heat needed for perfect fried rice. The timing on the dumplings, so the bottoms crisped, but the tops stayed soft. You still remember. I turned to find Emma standing in the kitchen doorway, backpack over one shoulder. She must have come in through the back while I was cooking. Your dad taught me when I was about your age. I said. Marcus isn't my dad. I mean, he is. But she scrunched up her nose, confused. Mom says you're my Uncle David, but you look sad when you watch me. What? Kids, they see everything. Because I missed a lot while I was away. I'm sad I didn't get to know you. Where were you? Working, very far away. She walked closer, hopping up onto a stool by the prep counter. That's what Mom says. But I heard Grandma telling Mrs. Peterson that you were in prison. My hand stilled on the cutting board. Did I say something wrong? Emma asked, worried now. No, you're just very honest. Mom says honesty is important, even when it's hard. She swung her legs. So were you? In prison? I could lie, make up some story about misunderstandings and mistakes. But something in her eyes, maybe it was the Chen stubbornness Mom mentioned, told me she'd know. Yes, I was in prison. Did you do something bad? I did something I thought was right. It turned out to be more complicated than that. Like when I took the blame for Sarah breaking Mrs. Henderson's window, but then Sarah told everyone it was her fault anyway and I got in trouble for lying. Something like that. She nodded sagely, like that made perfect sense in her 9-year-old logic. Marcus says you're a good man who made a hard choice. He says that makes you brave. The words hit me like a punch. Marcus had said that. About me. What else does Marcus say? That families are complicated. That love means protecting people, even when it's hard. That sometimes the best thing you can do is forgive people before they even ask for it. She picked up a piece of ginger I'd been mincing. Is that why you're sad? Because you're waiting for someone to ask you to forgive them. Maybe you should tell them they're forgiven anyway. Then you won't have to be sad anymore. If only it were that simple. The door burst open, and Jenny rushed in, looking panicked. Emma, I told you to wait by the car. She saw me and froze. I was talking to Uncle David, Emma said cheerfully. He's teaching me about cooking. That's nice, sweetie, but we need to go. Dinner's waiting. Jenny held out her hand, and Emma hopped down from the stool. Bye, Uncle David. Can you teach me more tomorrow? We'll see. After they left, I finished cleaning the kitchen in silence. But Emma's words kept echoing in my head. You should tell them they're forgiven anyway. Forgiveness. Such a simple concept for a child. Such an impossible one for me. The next day, Marcus pulled me aside during the lunch rush. We need to talk. Really talk? Tonight, after closing. Okay. That night, after the last customer left and Mom went home, Marcus and I sat in the dining room with a bottle of Dad's old whiskey, the good stuff he'd saved for special occasions. I don't know how to start this, Marcus said, pouring 2 glasses. I've practiced this conversation in my head 1,000 times, and I still don't know what to say. That doesn't sound like bullshit. Try the truth. The truth is, I'm a coward. I was then, and in a lot of ways, I still am. He took a drink. I told myself I was going to fix everything, pay back the money, set things right, have you out early on good behavior. But the deeper I got, the more I realized I couldn't undo it. Couldn't unfuck what I'd fucked. So you just took my life. Instead, I didn't plan it. Jenny was broken. David, completely broken. She blamed herself for not stopping you from taking the plea. She was pregnant and terrified, and I was the only person who knew the whole truth. We leaned on each other, and somewhere in there, we fell in love. Or maybe it was just guilt and proximity and loneliness. I don't even know anymore. Do you love her now? Yes. God help me. Yes. And I love Emma like she's my own daughter. Which makes me the worst kind of bastard, doesn't it? I stole your crime, and your girl, and your kid, and I love them. I built a life on your sacrifice, and I'm happy. The honesty of it was almost refreshing. No excuses, no justifications. Just the raw truth. I came back here planning to destroy you. I said, take back the restaurant. Tell Emma the truth. Make you feel what I felt. I know, I deserve it. But Emma asked me something today. She asked why I was sad, and I realized I'm not sure anymore. Marcus looked up, surprised. I'm angry. Yeah, furious. But watching you with her, watching how she lights up when you walk in. You're her father, Marcus. Not biologically, but in every way that matters. And taking that away from her to hurt you would just make me the monster instead of the martyr. So what do you want? I want to know why. Why you stole the money in the first place. What gambling debts were worth all of this? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Dad died owing money to some bad people. People who would have come after Mom, after the restaurant. I thought I could pay them off quick. Make some smart bets, double the money, and pay it all back before anyone noticed. Dad had gambling debts. He protected us from them, just like I tried to protect you by asking you to take the fall. Marcus laughed bitterly. We're both idiots, continuing the family tradition of noble suffering. Mom knew about Dad's debts. Yeah, she didn't know I was stealing to pay them off until after you were already sentenced. By then, what was the point of telling anyone? I poured another drink, processing. Dad wasn't perfect. Marcus was weak, but not evil. Mom had kept secrets to protect us all. Everyone had been trying to protect everyone else, and we'd all ended up damaged. I want to be part of Emma's life, I said finally. I don't need to be her father, you already are, but I want her to know who I am. The truth, age appropriate but honest. Okay, we can do that. Jenny and I will tell her together, when she's ready. And I want a real stake in the restaurant. Not charity, not guilt, money. A partnership, equal thirds, you, me, and Mom. Done, I'll have the papers drawn up. And Marcus, I'm going to forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because holding on to this hate is like drinking poison and expecting you to die. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve. No, you don't. But Emma deserves a family that isn't destroyed by secrets and resentment. And maybe I deserve a fresh start, too. We sat in silence for a while, drinking Dad's whiskey and mourning the years we'd lost to our own stupid choices. For what it's worth, Marcus said eventually, I'm sorry. I'm so goddamn sorry, David. I know. It wasn't forgiveness yet. Not really. But it was a start. The next Sunday, we had family dinner at Mom's house, something we hadn't done in over a decade. Mom cooked enough food for an army. Like always, Emma helped set the table, chattering about her upcoming school play. After dinner, while Emma was distracted with dessert, Marcus and Jenny sat her down in the living room. I stayed in the kitchen with Mom, listening. Emma, sweetie, we need to talk to you about something important, Jenny said. About Uncle David? Is he going away again? No, baby, he's staying. But we need to tell you the truth about who he is. They explained it as gently as they could, that I was her biological father, that I'd had to go away before she was born, that Marcus had stepped in to raise her because I couldn't be there, that they both loved her more than anything in the world. Emma was quiet for a long time. Then, so I have two dads. In a way, yes, Marcus said, like Sarah has two moms because her mom married Susan. Sort of like that, okay. Emma thought about it. Can I call you both Dad, or would that be weird? I walked into the living room then. You can call me David, or Uncle David, whatever feels right to you. Emma looked at me with those serious eyes. My eyes? Dad's eyes. Are you going to stay this time? Yes, I'm not going anywhere. Promise. Promise. She nodded, satisfied, then went back to her cake, like we'd just discussed something as mundane as her homework schedule. Kids are resilient like that. It's adults who complicate everything. Over the next few months, I found my place in the strange new shape of my family. I worked alongside Marcus at the restaurant, and slowly, we rebuilt something like brotherhood. Not what we'd had before that. Innocence was gone, but something more honest. More real. Jenny and I found an awkward peace. We'd never be friends, exactly, but we could be cordial, co-parents of a sort. Navigating Emma's life together. And Emma Ma decided she wanted to spend Saturdays with me, just the two of us. We'd go to the movies, or hiking, or I'd teach her more cooking. She called me David, and Marcus was Dad, and somehow that worked. One Saturday, 6 months after my release, Emma and I were making dumplings in Chen's garden kitchen. She'd gotten pretty good at folding them, her small fingers nimble. David, can I ask you something? Always. Do you hate Dad? Marcus dead, I mean. No, I did, for a while, but hate's too heavy to carry around. Because of what he did. Grandma told me some of it, about how you went to prison for something he did. Grandma talks too much, I said, but without heat. She says you're a hero, that you sacrificed yourself for your family. I'm not a hero, Emma. I'm just a guy who made a choice, and then had to live with it. But you'd do it again, wouldn't you? If you had to choose again? Would I, if I could go back to that night when Marcus showed up at my apartment, desperate and scared if I knew everything that would happen? Would I still say yes? I looked at Emma, flour on her nose, concentration on her face as she crimped a dumpling. Yeah, I said, I would, because if I hadn't, you wouldn't be here. And you're worth 10 years of my life and more. She smiled at me, bright and uncomplicated. That's what heroes do. They sacrifice for the people they love. Then I guess we're all heroes in this family. Even Marcus is. Even Marcus, she agreed. That night, after Emma left with Jenny, Marcus stayed late to help me close up. She asked me today if I hate you. I said, what did you tell her? That I don't. And I realized, saying it, that it's true. I don't hate you, Marcus. I'm not even angry anymore. I'm just tired. Tired, I can understand. Marcus wiped down the last table. You know what the worst part is? Not the guilt though, that's pretty bad. It's knowing that I get to be happy. I get Jenny and Emma and this successful restaurant, and you got 10 years in a cage. The universe should have balanced that better. Maybe it did. Maybe I got something you'll never have. What's that? A clean conscience. I know I did the right thing. Can you say the same? Marcus flinched. No, I can't. I live with that every day. Then maybe we both paid a price. Just different ones. We locked up the restaurant and stood on Main Street. The autumn night, cool and clear. We okay? Marcus asked. We're getting there. That's enough. For now, he pulled me into a hug, and after a moment, I hugged him back. Brothers, broken and healing, carrying scars that would never fully fade, but carrying them together. A year after my release, Chun's Garden was thriving. We'd opened a second location in the next town over, and there was talk of a third. I'd taken on most of the cooking, recreating Dad's old recipes and creating new ones. Marcus handled the business side. Mom came in 3 times a week to boss us both around. Emma was 10 now, confident and happy. She'd started calling me Dad David to distinguish me from Marcus Dad, and somehow that small hyphen made all the difference. I'd moved into my own apartment, nothing fancy, but mine. Started dating a woman named Sarah who worked at the library and didn't care about my past. Built a life that was different from what I'd planned, but maybe better in its own strange way. One evening, I found an old letter in my jacket pocket, one I'd written to myself in prison, 5 years into my sentence. A reminder to myself of why I was there, what I was fighting for. I read it, standing in my apartment, the words of a younger, angrier version of myself. Don't forget what they took from you. Don't forgive. Make them pay. I thought about Emma's question, are you going to stay this time? I thought about Marcus's guilt, carried like a stone around his neck. I thought about Jenny, trying so hard to make everyone happy. I thought about Mom, holding our fractured family together with nothing but will and love. Then I lit the letter on fire and watched it burn in my kitchen sink. Revenge is easy. Forgiveness is hard. But revenge would have destroyed what little family I had left. Forgiveness, messy, incomplete, imperfect forgiveness, had given me back something more valuable than what I'd lost. Not my old life. That was gone forever. But a new life, different, complicated, but mine. Marcus called as I was washing the ashes down the drain. Emma wants to know if you're coming to her school play Thursday. She's playing Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Wouldn't miss it. Good. Jenny's making a whole thing of a dinner, after. Photos, the works. Fair warning, I can handle it. Yeah, Marcus said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. You can. After we hung up, I looked around my small apartment, at the photos of Emma on my fridge, at the apron from Chen's garden hanging by the door, at the life I'd built from the ashes of the one I'd lost. Was it fair? No. Was it justice? Not even close. But it was family, broken and rebuilt, scarred but standing, and maybe that was enough. The night of Emma's play, we all sat together, Marcus and Jenny, Mom, Sarah, and me. Emma was brilliant as Dorothy, singing about rainbows and home with a voice that cracked with emotion. When she took her bow, she looked right at us, and her smile could have powered the whole theater. There's no place like home, she'd sung. Watching her, surrounded by the complicated, messy, impossible family we'd become, I finally understood what that meant. Home isn't a place. It's not even people, really. Home is the choice to stay, to forgive, to build something new from the rubble of what was broken. I'd spent 10 years in prison paying for a crime I didn't commit. But I'd spent the last year learning that some debts can't be repaid. Some wounds can't be healed. They can only be lived with, accepted, transformed into something else. After the play, we all went to dinner at Chen's garden. Emma sat between Marcus and me, talking a mile a minute about her performance, about her friends, about a science project she was planning. Dad, David, can you help me build a volcano? Marcus' dad is terrible at crafts. Hey, Marcus protested, but he was laughing. I can help, I said. Promise, promise. She beamed at me, then went back to her dinner, satisfied. Marcus caught my eye across the table and mouthed, thank you. I nodded, because that's what brothers do. Even brothers who've hurt each other. Even brothers who've stolen and lied and broken every promise. They find a way forward. Later, after everyone had gone home and I was alone in the restaurant, I stood in the kitchen where I'd spent so much of my childhood, where Dad had taught me to cook, where Marcus had confessed his crime, where Emma had asked me if I'd ever stop being sad. I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't angry, or vengeful, or eaten up by bitterness. I was just David Chen, ex-con, chef, brother, father, in all the ways that mattered even if the law said otherwise. I locked up the restaurant and walked home through Millbrook's quiet streets. The town was the same as it had always been, small, familiar, full of people who knew everyone's business. But I was different. Prison had taken 10 years of my life, but it had also taught me something valuable, that the person you are isn't defined by what's taken from you, but by what you choose to do with what remains. Marcus had taken my freedom, my fiancée, my chance to raise my daughter, but I'd chosen to forgive him, not because he deserved it, but because I deserved peace, and in the end, that peace was worth more than any revenge could ever be. I fell asleep that night thinking about Emma's play, about her voice singing about home and rainbows. And for the first time in 10 years, I didn't dream about prison, I dreamed about tomorrow.